first rule in grip sport is you tell everyone about grip sport.
You know, crushing, pinch grip, thick bar, wrists.
If the best guy in the world can't lift 100 pounds on it, I don't give a shit about it.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of The Grip Show. I'm your host, Zach Mullins, once again, and one of the things we've been trying to do with this show is not only capture some of the biggest lifters and strongest lifters that are currently active in grip, but also kind of paying respect and paying tribute to some of the guys that paved the way and were there in kind of the earlier years when this stuff was really kicking off. So with me now, Steve McGranahan. So welcome to the show.
Thanks. Paying homage to the old heads.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's something that's important, and I think it gets overlooked. There's a lot of people nowadays that they don't even know why they're doing a lot of the stuff they're doing, but it is because of guys like you. And yeah,
we broke a lot of ground. We plowed a lot. I give Dave Horn all the credit to getting me going, and Rick Walker and Jed and a bunch of guys from around this Pennsylvania area. We were in a hot pocket up here for a long time. James Smith, incredible bender. Oh my goodness, phenomenal underhanded bender. Mm-hmm. He did some stuff that was incredible. Even made me just like, wow. His nickname was Shrug. So yeah. And the grip board, obviously the grip board and all the fun we had on there and trying to prove and disprove things, and things were happening so fast back then that it was weird, and it was hard to have video proof because mm-hmm. nobody had all these $100 iWatches that you can hit and film everything that you want to do, and 4G and all that stuff. We had literally a 3G, or I don't even know what we had back then. Just a camera and I had a Crackberry, a BlackBerry. Took the worst video in the world. So Tommy Heslop turned me on to a lot of stuff. Actually, Tommy got me going on the one-handed card rip, the mandible rip that I did on Jay Leno's show. So he was like, hey, I had a surgery on my shoulder. He was like, you're not doing anything with your left arm, are you? And I was like, no. He said, why don't you stick a deck of cards in your mouth and try to rip them? And I was like, okay. And, basically that's how that started happening. So, yeah, it's just, I don't know. We had fun. We were guinea pigs. Everybody, we didn't have any of those fancy scale things that you would like weigh everything all the time. And, everybody was like, oh, well, that don't look like that amount of weight. That doesn't, everybody was always getting put under the gun. And, it was fun. I mean, it was fun having a lot of critics making sure everything was running copacetically, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was one thing I was going to bring up. I recently spoke to Jed Johnson not too long ago, and he had mentioned to bring up card tearing stuff to you. You already mentioned it, but yeah, he said, bring up card tearing to him. He said, man, he's one of the best card tearers there's ever been.
So, yeah, this is what Tommy Heslop started here. I always take the jokers out. So these are, I just took it out of the pack. Mavericks.
Yeah.
Hands are real cold. I did a lot of work today, but
there it is.
The mandible rip. So I did 10 packs in 29 seconds on the Jay Leno show.
Yeah.
The Tonight Show. So, my hands are trashed.
It's still making it look easy though. Yeah.
It is once you get warmed up. So
yeah. That was one thing I had to ask you about. And then another thing I know that you've done a lot of is steelbending.
Yeah.
Is there any type of steel bending, or is there a certain bend that you did that was probably your favorite?
Probably bending a lot of red nails in a row. I don't even know how many I did. I love to do horseshoes. The crowd when I do horseshoes, that's just that and crazy frying pans. I mean, it sound as easy as it is to do. People love the frying pan and put it through a
Yeah.
watch. They
Yeah, I
love
think
that.
that's one of those things though they can kind of relate to. When you start seeing kind of like a frying pan or horseshoe, they have those like items maybe around or they've at least seen it in their life.
Oh
And
yeah,
so
yeah.
they can relate to it where
A deck of
sometimes you get
cards, and they
yeah.
love it when you. Oh, let me see if I got it. They love it when you do this. Here's a frying pan. It's a real frying pan. And they just start laughing for some strange reason because, I mean, it's physical comedy. And I mean, that's what I really get into is and making people laugh and then encouraging them to do more with the gifts that they have because my gift is strong hands and motivating people to do more with the gifts they have. So,
Yeah.
and if they laugh, then they release endorphins and they comprehend it more. But see, I was a learning disabled kid. I have dyslexia, and it gets terrible sometimes. I think I had an episode last week. I don't know what I couldn't do, but me and Jay Leno, we had a long conversation about being dyslexic when I was on this show. So it was pretty neat how somebody making $100 million a year versus somebody making $60,000 a year can talk about the same thing, which is having I wouldn't say mental disability because
Yeah.
we talked about it and it's we have an imagination that's like off the chart. Like we're the kind of people that will sit in a funeral and then laugh about something funny in a funeral when it's not supposed to be funny. And he talked about that, and I was like, "Yeah, don't it show up at the weirdest times?" And he goes, "Yeah, it's like I've embarrassed myself a few times, yeah." So, but that has helped with creating combos or whatever you do. I mean, like lifting a blob and closing a three at the same time. Just trying to innovate the sport and have fun doing it, being imaginative, and then saying, "Here, world, let's see what we can do with it."
Yeah. Now, back in those days when guys first were trying to chasing maybe the blob or inch dumbbell or closing the number three, those are pretty common feats of strength people would pursue.
Mm-hmm.
Do you kind of remember who initiated that kind of combo lifting style? Who maybe you saw somebody first, or were you kind of involved in a lot of that?
I
Or
think we all challenged each other.
yeah,
It was really, like on the grip board. Well, my left hand seems to be stronger than my right hand, so I can pick the blob up with my right hand and then rip a deck of cards with my left hand because that's the way I learned how to rip cards with my left hand. So it just evolved that way. I don't know who's the godfather of it. I mean, it could be Horn, it could be, even the whole Hoyle family. They're if the whole family ever says that they do a feat of strength, they've done the feat of strength. You don't need video, you don't need verbiage, you don't. If they write it down, then they've done it.
yeah. I
And
had a
that's where I got a lot of inspiration because I'm sitting here watching this. I guess it's the first family of grip. That's what I'm going to call them.
okay.
But they are some phenomenal human beings, and they're not the biggest Brutus size guys. They're like farm strong,
Yeah,
lack
I
of a
had
better
a
term.
I did an episode on the show before where we kind of just covered the topic of the inch dumbbell. I had a bunch of different guys that were into lifting the inch dumbbell or had experience with it, and Nathan was one of my he was the first guest that kicked that show off.
Oh my
So
goodness.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's definitely pulled off some pretty big stuff and super knowledgeable guy and
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
made
They're the
made a
ones
lot of
that I
money those two.
run. They're the ones that I ask a lot of questions. Like that guy who just cleaned and pressed it, that real young guy.
Would it be Ben Helms maybe or
I think it is. Yeah.
okay.
I need to learn names better. But I was like, that's phenomenal. I mean, he just did it so pure and so natural. I bet I watched it 50 times
Oh
going,
yeah.
he made it look like a paperweight. Yeah, it was. So I asked, I said, who's the oldest person to clean and press it? And I think some guy 42 years old or something did it. So I'm not running that through my head. I'm 60 years old and I still have one good shoulder left. So
Yeah. um, uh, Kind of going back to the steel bending stuff. Now, I
right.
know that the Ironmind Red Nail was kind of a big thing then too.
Uh-huh.
Um, and like I said, I'm going off the notes here. You had mentioned that, I mean, obviously, I believe you're on the red nail list, but that maybe you were the first to break the red nail. Would that be like kind of like a snapping type bend, or was that just
Yeah, it was just like,
yeah,
been in a clothes hanger, when you were a little
yeah,
kid trying to see how hot you could get it and burn yourself or burn paper.
yeah,
I was down in my basement and I just bent the red nail and I was like, wouldn't it be something if somebody bent this? Or, I mean, wouldn't it be something if somebody broke it?
yeah,
So I just said a little prayer. I was like, God, you think I can bend this prayer? I mean, I just said a little prayer. God, help me break this. And then I put it over my leg and I straightened it out and I was like, okay, I guess we're going to do this.
yeah,
So I don't know how long it took. I remember sweating profusely and it bent and it bent and bent and bent and bent and bent. It got really hot. I burned both of these fingers bending it over. And all of a sudden it broke. And I was just like, wow, that's, I've never heard anybody, breaking a nail, let alone. And I think I put it on Ironmind grip board, or I put it on the grip board, and all of a sudden, BS, nobody can BS, it's impossible, BS. All the naysayers, and I was just like, I don't care if you believe me or not. I put the sweat equity into breaking this thing as anybody ever broke it. And
yeah,
David Horn came on and said, you're the first one. And then I guess that's when everybody started breaking them. And I think a guy from the Netherlands or somebody, broke the next one and he kept breaking them. And then, I mean, it was just, you
yeah.
know, Breakatopia broke out, I guess.
um, so you kind of talked about how the grip board was back then, and like I said, now not everybody had like
Oh, they were vicious. Dude, they
HD.
were
Yeah,
vicious.
yeah. Because
They were,
nowadays it's like
they,
HD cameras in everybody's pocket. You can document it. Everybody has digital
oh,
scales.
yeah. Yeah.
I was gonna say, what was the culture like, kind of back on the early days in the grip board? Just I know you kind of
It
spoke
was
on it a
just
little bit, but
ego after ego. I mean, it got brutal. It got brutal. And because there was no way of fact checking. You know what I mean? There was
mhm,
no way of, oh, I pinched 245s. You couldn't even pinch 200 pounds with two hands, let alone pinch, 90 pounds with one hand. How do you do it? People get in these crazy zones, man. I know I've been in my basement back in the day and broke some world records that I didn't even know I was breaking at the time,
yeah,
because you just get in a zone. Your nerves are just sparking at like nitroglycerin speed, and you just like doing numbers and crazy stuff, and it just all happened. And then you can't do nothing 10 days later because you're all mangled up and you're like contrasting baths and sleeping all contorted and your fingers are numb, and you got to let your nervous system catch back up. And yeah, see, what people don't understand, and this is when I finally had that epiphany moment where my little light came on. You're not lifting with muscles, okay? You're lifting with ligaments, sinew, cartilage. And if you get that strong, then everything else is going to be strong with it.
yeah,
And if you can get literally like your tendons like piano strings, like a big boom bass piano string, you're not going to have any trouble doing anything that you want to do with hand strength. But what I found out is it takes longer to heal and recover when you break those down, I guess you break them down, than it does
Yeah.
muscles. Muscles you can recover in 3 days. You're feeling
Mhm.
good. Sinew is going to take, to make a long story short, okay? I was having trouble with this arm tingling or something. It was just blowing up. I go into my chiropractor. He says, promise me this. You will do nothing for 4 weeks and we'll get better. And I said, that's crazy. 4 weeks, me without doing any hand strength for 4 weeks. I'll be jonesing, man. I'll be like, shoot me up with a red nail or something. And I said, okay. He says, take an ibuprofen, take 2 ibuprofens 3 to 4 times a day, and we'll get it right. He did a bunch of ultrasound, and I had like arm wrestling, elbow tendon problem, everything, right? Sure enough, 4 weeks. We got it good. I did absolutely no lifting or nothing for a month. I get inside my car, I take out a deck of cards, and it ripped like a sheet of paper. Ripped like like literally,
Yeah.
literally like this, a deck of cards. And I went, wow, that's recovery. That's healing. And from then on, it was game on.
Yeah. I think we see a lot of people nowadays, especially if we're talking grip specific. Like you mentioned, it takes a long time for some of that stuff to kind of, whether it's your central nervous system or whether it is like ligaments and tendons and stuff like that, the connective things. It takes a little bit longer when you're putting, I mean, the stuff we're talking about is pretty extreme stuff. Obviously if you're doing regular training, but yeah, if you're talking about like, I mean, just bending insane stuff, lifting crazy amounts of, dumbbells or heavy lifts, just
Yeah,
it's putting so much pressure on everything, so much stress and tension that a lot of times I think that we all like training so much, we try to just jump right back in there, but sometimes less is more,
right,
basically.
right,
Yeah.
right.
So,
It's like a good power lift, a good deadlift. You work for that one rep. And Jed talks about that, working for that one lift, that one, excuse me, that one pull. And I got on that aspect or that thing where, okay. And I literally did it in my basement. I didn't pinch for probably 4 or 5, maybe 6 months, maybe a year. I don't know. I piddled with it. You know how you piddle?
mhm.
And I'd go up to like 180, 184. I mean, that's warm up for a lot of these beasts out there to now doing like 260 or 240 or whatever. So I said, okay, we're just going to do up to single rep max once a week and everything. And I got back up to 204 and picked it up like it was nothing. And I was like, and then I went on vacation. So it works. It really does. It
Yeah.
works.
And for you talking about pinching, then you're probably talking about pinching like the two-hand euro. Is that the
Yeah.
device you guys were using? Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
do. I got two old York plates that are 100 years old, and a blacksmith drilled the 2-inch hole. It was a
Uh-huh.
1-inch hole,
Yep.
but he drilled it. So they're probably 99 and a half pounds each. Or, I mean, 49 and a half pounds each.
Mhm.
And they're like a little bit wider than like normal ones. And I love these. I've just lifted on them because when I go back to the gym and I lift 90-pound plates, I'm doing hand to hand and, just playing around with them with the ones at the gym, just working in between my circuit program. I do my hands and, those plates down there have just been wonderful. And then I got a thing that I stick through it, an Olympic bar
Mhm.
end that I stick through it, and then I add weight to it.
Yep.
So yeah,
Yeah.
so it's not quite an adjustable European one.
Yeah.
I I don't like to spend a lot of money on grip stuff because
Yeah.
I can literally make it. I mean, I have
Mhm.
PVC pipe stuff around my house and just I actually, from the hurricane that hit down in Myrtle Beach, I brought back a slab of wood that washed ashore. It's probably 4 foot long by 5 inches treated lumber, and I'll just get out in the yard and just like play around with it. I have no idea how much it weighs or nothing, but I'll improvise like that all the time because
Yeah.
it's a functional lift.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And then when I'm at a grocery store or something, Gina goes, my wife, she'll go, give me a case of that, and I'll reach down and grab the case and just have fun pinching with strong hands.
Yeah. With that, we're kind of just bringing up the pinch or kind of bringing up some of the competition stuff from back then. Did you have
Mhm.
any lifts that kind of stood out to you that were kind of your favorite, or lifts that you kind of excelled at more than others?
I love the pinch.
Pinch.
Okay. But the problem with the pinch was I was a football player. Right. You see the way my left thumb goes further than my right,
Hmm.
my thumb.
Yeah.
Okay. What happened? I was a defensive player, and I would grab a uniform and I would do a swipe technique or a hammer technique or a swim technique. And that thumb would get wound up in the guy's jersey, and it would just keep going further and further and further. So my pinch, I don't know if you can see it or not, is kind of weird because my hand has to become more dominant to make up for the room.
Okay.
And it would just peel back like a banana.
Yeah.
So I would have to, wait 10 days for that to heal to go back. But pinch is my all-time favorite. Blob. Um, I'm still working on picking up an inch dumbbell. Um, Greg Pickett gave me Kim's dumbbell. The Kim who invented the hammer strength.
Okay.
Okay, for he was a strength coach for that team down in Cincinnati. I'm a Steelers
Bing.
fan, so
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
Bengals. Yeah.
yeah, the Bengals, yeah.
Are you talking about Kim Wood? Is that the name?
Kim Wood, yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Yep.
invented
Gotcha.
hammer strength, and
Okay. Yep.
Greg was kind enough to give me that his gift, that Kim gave because you know he Greg's getting up in age and he just wanted to give it to somebody who he thought was going to use it, and trust me, I'm using it, and so that's my gift to myself this year is hopefully pick it up by Christmas.
Okay.
So I'm dealing with some wrist issue now, but I really like thick bar lifting. I have one, two, 120-pound ones, and they're rounder than the inch dumbbell
Yeah.
handle. So I play around with those a lot, and I got one that I can add weight to, and I've been up to I think 160 on that one.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I'm there. I can hold it with one finger and then pick it up with both hands very easily. So
Yeah. Now, with the inch dumbbell being a thing, nowadays it's a little bit easier, I think, because people have more access to it. When you got that,
exactly.
is that one of the first times you've actually just been able to even kind of get your hands on one or been around them, or were they kind of
Yeah,
around back then?
Tommy Heslip let me borrow his for about a year, and I really did not get into it much because I was doing some other. I think I was doing some Hollywood stuff. I'm not sure what I was doing, but I didn't practice like I should have on it
Yeah.
until I gave it back to him. So this inch in my basement right now that Greg blessed me with is it's old, it's rusty, it's
Hmm.
perfect for lifting for when you're like 60 years old and you need just a little more cheek grip on things. And yeah, so I'm not here to impress anybody anymore. I really, even though I do get paid handsomely for impressing people with my strength, for motivational speaking and schools and churches and all that. So
Yeah, and that's another aspect that I don't say used to be more popular, but old time strongmen kind of feats of strength. That would be like the performing side of things. We were talking competition or like guys just doing feats of strength in their own garage or basement, but there's that kind of lineage of putting on performances or putting on a show. And that's something that you're real familiar with. And you've been doing that for a long time in front of, I mean, big audiences. So,
yeah,
what,
tens of millions, actually.
yeah. Now, what I was going to say, what, do you have any kind of performances that sort of, stood out to you, or anything that was kind of like a big moment, maybe when you were first kind of, maybe getting going in that, when you felt like you maybe had a
Well,
breakthrough? Or
I tell you what, performing and comedy and trying to motivate people to do more with the gifts that they have is it's actually it's a gift. I mean, it really, and I thank God every day for it. And I just did a school here in town. I did 2 shows for them. I did a camping thing for men's group up in Erie, or no, I did a church in Erie, and then I did a camping group in right above where the plane crashed in Pennsylvania, right above that monument, Flight 93, I think it was.
okay.
Right around in that area where all the windmills are. And so it's just it's great doing something in front of people and telling them they can do the same thing with the gifts they have to encourage people to do some incredible things. Because I mean, just like the grip show, you're interviewing people to help people get better. And anytime you do that, it's one better thing for humanity,
Yeah,
So
I think it's kind of a win-win, really.
right,
Because I
right,
mean it,
right.
and that's one thing, like I said, when with doing the show, we're kind of documenting these competitions that are going on nowadays, at least the best we can. That way
Oh
there's
my goodness, there's
you
some
know
competitions going on. I mean, to
yeah,
see the numbers these guys are throwing around and watching Timmy me or
yeah,
something.
yeah,
That
Tim
guy,
Butler. Yep, Tim
oh
Butler.
my goodness, that he's not even human. He's got to have some gorilla DNA in him. I mean, he's all right. And when we used to coach, I coached wrestling. I was a pretty good wrestler, and we would always watch the kids walk into the room to see who had hooked arms. Because when
Mm-hmm.
you're a wrestler, I mean, it's just like, just you're like gripping and grabbing and pulling. And just Timmy, he just says, I love the kid. I do. I love watching his videos because he'll just look at the camera and then he'll grab like a 62-pound blob. Are you kidding me? I think the best I ever did on a blob, I think it was the fat boy with, I think, 5 or 10 pounds magnetic on the bottom.
That,
And
that that still is that's a serious lift though.
I mean,
That's
it was it
good.
was it was good, but it still didn't have the width on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Of a 62-pound dumbbell.
yeah.
And then he reaches down and he picks up the inch dumbbell and he smiles at the camera and then he'll reach over and he'll grab a deck of cards and everything and he'll look at the camera real serious and go, he just this is unopened in the pack, so he just see, this is hard for me.
Yeah.
Unopened in the pack, and he'll just rip it like a freaking sheet of paper, man. And this is with cellophane on it, and it's
Yeah.
just, I mean, that's a good feat of strength. He does it like a sheet of paper. You're sitting there going,
Yeah.
and it's bicycles, and you're going, this dude is a bad dude.
Yeah, Tim's a serious card tearer, because I mean he'll have him in duct tape. He'll almost do like double packs. Sometimes he does some crazy stuff. He's
Yeah.
card tearing. I would almost put him up there. I mean, now I don't know of every card
Oh,
tearer out there, but
I'm gonna say he's the best in the world right now.
yeah, that would be my opinion. Like I said, I don't know everybody, but from what I've seen, I would say
I
Tim's
know
up
how
there.
to rip a deck of cards and in the cellophane
Yeah.
now, and I've done that wrapped in duct tape,
Hmm.
and it takes a few swings. I did it for some musician out in Las Vegas, and I did it for his manager, and his manager wrapped it this way and long ways.
Okay. Yeah.
And he says, I know about y'all people. And I ripped it in half for him. And I knew how Herculean that was. And Timmy does it on a single swipe. Just, and I'm like, dude, respect, man, respect.
I say that's also good though too, because that was going to be one of my questions for you was with, like I said, you're obviously still performing, you're still, training, you still have goals in mind. But was kind of like, how closely do you necessarily follow active lifters now? I mean, it might be hard to know some of the names, but yeah, you mentioned kind of Tim Butler there with the card tearing. Are there any other people that you kind of have taken notice of, or just
That
different lifts?
Dupree something, who is doing some incredible stuff with the gripper #4 gripper. He's holding it up with the Ironmind thing. I don't
Silver
know.
Bullet.
I think it's holding up with a silver bullet. That's mind boggling. I've closed, I think, 3 #4s.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was the first person to close a #4 in competition. I think it was up in Illinois at Betty's place.
Is like John Beatty or something, or is
John
that
Beatty's
okay?
competition.
Yeah,
I won
okay.
that competition.
Yeah.
I actually swept that whole competition, which was surprising because Dave Morton was there. Dave
Yeah.
Morton, I've seen that guy. I've seen him rip 3 decks of cards.
Yeah.
I've seen Dave Morton rip 3 decks of cards. I don't know what they were, but he ripped them, and I was like, respect, man. Yeah, he had probably one of the strongest right hands in the world at that time. Yeah, along with Tommy Heslop, with closing the 4.
Yeah.
So he's certified with Brookfield. He's certified under Brookfield.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, out of prison. That's a great story. Yeah. So yeah.
Mentioning some of those old names now that you kind of trained with or competed with. One of the things that was brought to my attention was that you had put out, and like I said, you correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, but you had like maybe a grip training DVD or some type of grip strength DVD that you had put out.
Yeah,
Back
it's
in the
just a
day.
lot of the feats of strength that I did.
Yeah.
Greg Amidon put it together
Okay.
for me. He's
Yeah.
such a kind man. I've seen that guy bend some pretty crazy horseshoes, seated bends too.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he was kind enough to hook a brother up with that. And I don't know what all was on that DVD. I don't even know. I got it around here somewhere. But yeah, I just did like a montage of how I trained and the pinch and just the mental motivation. One thing I've learned with strength, all right. First of all, with my imagination, okay, I'm able to think up things that maybe a normal person doesn't think of. Okay, some things that are stupid, like chainsaw on a rope, or lawnmower on a stick.
I've seen the
Things that
videos.
you
Yeah.
can lose limbs doing. But I've made some good money off of those videos. I can't complain. All the way from Germany to Japan, everybody's bought them videos and the rights to them. Ridiculousness, but yeah, I just like my imagination as
Mm-hmm.
long as I don't hurt myself in doing it. And I tell my wife, and she just rolls her eyes and just shakes her head. She goes, "Look, just don't call me from the hospital. Just throwing the blob up and catching it. That was one of the fun things to do. Hand to hand with the the 45s together.
Mm-hmm.
Dropped them on your toes a couple times. Yeah, you get real stupid and sloppy sometimes. Tendonitis galore with trying to break the next big thing.
Yeah. One thing you mentioned was kind of the mental side of training that maybe you
Yeah.
wanted to touch on. Is there anything specific with that you kind of wanted to go into detail about?
I read a lot of books this year, and it's a lot of them are on thinking and what your mind can think, your body can achieve, and a lot of just like a deck of cards. All right, let's say for instance, when I was first learning how to rip a deck of cards, I didn't rip the whole deck, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So you're sitting there going, okay, I'm going to rip all the hearts and diamonds together. And then I'm going to rip those as small as I can. And I used to do this at work. I worked at a prison and I would rip them all the way down past a postage stamp to
Mm-hmm.
where my fingers were splitting and bleeding and doing that. And I thought that I could, okay, let's do a half a deck. So I would do that whole thing all the way down. Okay, let's do 3/4 of a deck. And I would rip them down, fingers would bleed and crack. And the coolest thing is when you rip things, sometimes you put enough pressure on your cuticles that blood will come out of your cuticles. That's happened to me several times. Or you cut the side of your mouth, or you rip your beard out when you're trying to rip a deck of cards in your teeth. I got up to almost 2 decks of cards, with my teeth.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I just kept thinking bigger and bigger and bigger and stronger, and made sure I rested, made sure I did contrasting baths that Rick Walker just made me mandatorily do, hot, cold, freezing, hot, cold. Keep your hands soft to reach these goals. David Horn taught me that. He says, before you go into competition, do all that. All that helps your mental capacity, knowing that you're prepared to do something greater. And then, like an idiot, you'll turn around and dream of something bigger.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, let's put a rare earth magnet on the bottom of a blob and put a 2.5 pound weight on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're like, oh, well, I can't pick the 2.5 pound up, but I can pick the magnet up on the bottom of the blob. So you did increase. Another thing is micro weights, just like I just explained there. If you lift stuff in a bucket or something, here's a good thing for hand strength. Okay, throw a bunch of change at the bottom of a 5 gallon bucket, quarters, dimes, whatever. Just throw it at the bottom of a bucket. All right. Fill it a quarter of the way up with sand. You go down through the sand and you pick the money up and you take it out. Each day that you practice, you add a little bit more level in the sand until you're going through the whole bucket to pick up change off the bottom of the bucket.
Okay.
So you see how micro thing, but
Yeah.
in your mind, you're sitting there going, I'm improving, but it's only a little bit at a time. You take a handful of sand. I learned this from Paul Anderson.
Mm-hmm.
He used to pick up a 55-gallon drum. And he says, every day before you pick up that drum and you work out, you take a handful of rocks and you throw in the drum.
Yeah.
A handful of rocks over a year is what?
A
40,
lot.
50 pounds, right?
Yeah.
So you're getting stronger. Literally, it's the theory of picking up a baby cow every day when it's born, and then you'll be able to pick up the whole cow. We know you can't do that, but
Yeah.
I have seen a guy walk across the field with a horse on his shoulder. Well, small pony.
Yeah.
That's a strong dude, man. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. That's a strong dude if you got a pony on your shoulder and you're walking across the field.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're doing that, you're probably going to be pretty good most
And it
other
starts
places.
right here. Starts right here. And it has to go to here.
Yeah.
It has to. If you got this, if this is big enough to want, and you can think of it and you want it, you can make it happen. At 60 years old, I'm doing this stuff and people are like, well, I've had arthritis for 10 years. I can't believe you're doing this. Okay. I don't let my stuff rust, man. Don't let it rust.
Yeah.
Keep it going.
Now, speaking on the kind of the mental and everything like that, during these performing feats, or it could be any lift, that you've done, is there a certain moment or I'll say maybe one that stood out the most, but was there ever a moment that you kind of almost doubted yourself and you pretty much didn't think you were going to be able to do something, but then you kind of were able to push through that and then still deliver and hit the lift? Is there like a real big moment that you could remember there?
I've had about 1,000 of
I was
those.
going to say, as long as you've been lifting everything, I'm sure there's a
Yeah,
lot of those moments.
I've had about 1,000 of those. Um, One of my best bench presses ever, I had 101 temperature.
Mhm.
Okay. You go back to Michael Jordan, his 60 point, 70-point game, he had a fever, he had the flu. You know, it gets you in a zone. Even though you're sick as a dog, you feel like crap, you're going, okay, I'm still going to the gym. I'm gonna make this happen. There's been a lot of days I've walked down to my basement and sat in my chair and went, there is no way I can close uh, a number two gripper, let alone pinch 214 pounds off the ground. Okay. It took a little longer than I wanted to warm up. It took a long warm up. It took forever. And the whole time I was like, oh, this is going to kill me and this is going to kill me. And all of a sudden I went, what the heck? Let's put it on the bar.
Mhm.
Boom. You walk over. It's like you could power clean it. And you're
Yeah.
like, what happened between I didn't want to be here to setting a PR, feeling like crap, your hands are bleeding. What happened in between? It's almost like you don't think about it, but yet it happens. That
Yeah.
type of Michael Jordan says when he was in a zone, he was never thinking about being in the zone.
Yeah.
When Mark McGuire was asked what is it like to hit a 520-foot baseball, he says, I don't feel it.
Mhm.
Everything flows in perfection. And other days I'm sitting here, I'm taking creatine, yeah. Oh, taking all this supplement and stuff, and and you can't hit 80% of your max.
Yeah.
You know, it's just you know it's it's that strange thing, but I literally I try to block out everything around me. I go into my head in my happy space, and I don't see anything but me doing the lift.
Mhm.
Okay, that's all I see. And I see myself doing it again. And I see myself doing it again. And I see myself doing it again. Then all of a sudden my whole body will go relaxed and I'll go, and then I'll freaking yell. I'll go, you know, just rage, man. I've actually raged driving down the street, holding my steering wheel, going to the gym, getting myself jacked up to have a great workout. No roids or nothing. I've never done drugs. And walk over and I'll pick it up.
Mhm.
And then I'll pick it up again. And then I'll pick it up again. And then I'll pick it up again. It happened one night when I was power cleaning. I was trying to I was trying to power clean 300 pounds. This was back in Durham, North Carolina. There was 308 on the bar, and I ended up doing it 8 times.
Wow. Yeah.
All I wanted was one. All I
Yeah.
wanted was one. And I got in such a zone that I did it 8 times. And I put it down, and I went, and when you put it down, it's like it was a dream.
Yeah.
It was like an out of body experience.
I was just about to say that.
It
Yeah.
was like you're up here watching it. I'm down here doing it. You put it down, you sit down, and all of a sudden, here comes reality. Did that just happened?
Yeah.
And people in the gym were looking at you like, what in the world are you on? You know, it happened with some 600-pound squats I had. Just,
Yeah. No,
but
I've had some. Okay, go
don't
ahead.
expect don't expect to max out for about 2 months after that because your body is fried, fried.
I've had some similar experiences, especially like with some of the real big combo lifts or certain things where it almost feels hopeless when you're starting. You almost feel like it's not even going to break the ground. And then, like you said, something will switch in that middle time. And then I've had lifts where, I mean, okay, you got the phone set up or you're filming it nowadays or something. And I've actually, like one of the bigger blob lifts I did, I didn't even think it was going to leave the ground. Ended up like pulling the full lift, but it almost felt like I wasn't even doing it, like out of body. And
Yep.
then I actually, after like walking to the phone and hitting stop, going back, I almost had to like replay the video because I'm like, I don't think that just happened.
Yeah.
Like you almost just kind of, like you said,
Yeah.
you get into this almost like an out of body. It's like you did the lift, you kind of did the lift, but it is almost like a dream, and it almost doesn't seem real until you kind of settle down for a minute, or almost I got to kind of go back and review it a little bit. So
Yeah.
I can
I
relate.
hit a zone. I think the last zone I hit, all right, and this was my third day back pinching in probably 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
All right, this was after COVID and just dealing with a whole bunch of stuff in my life. And you didn't get down. You walk by your stuff in the basement every day for 2 years, and you're like, okay, I'll get to it. I'll get to it. And I went down there, and I went to 160, and I went, okay, that's enough, because I don't want to rip anything. 160 is not a lot of weight pinching. And then I think 2 workouts after that, I said, okay, let's go 184. Okay. And I picked it up, and it was light. And I said, okay, let's try 184. And I picked it up, and it was light. I said, okay, let's do 184. And I think I ended up doing 10 reps of onesies. And I was like, okay, that's going to pay dividends. It came out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
It just came out of nowhere. No, I mean, that was probably the last time, then that was 2 months ago. Yeah, it was just
Okay.
one of them weird things. But this is a thing that I try to tell everybody in hand strength, okay? And everybody who's getting strong, and they're always worried about losing it. All right, losing the power, losing the strength. And I've told people ask me all the time, Steve, why do you do so many reps? Dave Morton used to get on me. He was talking to, we were with a friend somewhere in North Carolina, and he goes, just ignore Steve because he'll do that all day long. And that's the way I've taught myself, especially when you're being in a show, because you have to be ready, whether you're sick, whether it's cold, whether it's hot. I did a show for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and it was 32 degrees outside, soaking wet, and I couldn't feel my hands. And I put a frying pan through the kicker's like $100,000 watch, and he freaked out. It was wild, but you have to perform no matter what. And this is what I tell people: you have to get your baseline strength. All right, and I like my baseline strength to close a 2.5 gripper or a 3, pinch 200 pounds, do a 150 or 160 on a thick bar, and be able to bend as many nails as you can, and bend 10 horseshoes in a row, and rip 15 phone books wrapped in duct tape, rip 20 decks in your teeth. And that would be a normal workout. That would be my baseline strength that I could do any day of the week, 365 days a year.
Yeah.
And when you can get your baseline strength up to where you're happy with it, then you won't lose it 2 or 3 months from now. Because you remember I told you turn your arms into sinew, into piano strings. You might not have the endurance, but you'll have that baseline strength. And I've been able to do that. I got a number 3 gripper that's sawed off. I bet you I've worked out on that gripper probably 30,000 reps, might even be 50,000 reps. When I used to walk my dog for an hour, I used to do nothing but try to close that sawed off three. Just hours of just trying to close that sawed off three. And you can tell the strength of it's probably a 2.5 that I've closed it so much. That thing that says that you lose 2.5% every 10,000 closes or whatever, it's true. They do get weak, but
it takes a lot of reps, but
right.
But like you're saying, you've put in thousands,
tens of thousands. And I would and my dog would turn around and look at me like, "Why are you grunting, man? What are you doing?" And I'm sitting there just walking the dog, just trying to close that number 3. And it was like sometimes it would get that close and just it just motivates you. Yeah.
So now you mentioned, like I said, all the different performances, kind of having a base strength and stuff like that. Like I said, this is just kind of a random question here.
Okay.
With you having some competition history in the past and winning some big competitions, is there any chance of a grip comeback? Will you think you'll ever compete again? You think you'll ever pop up randomly at a competition if it lines up, or are you pretty much kind of like, I'm good on that and kind of in a different lane now?
I've always wanted to try the different apparatus, because the European grip, that was the only time when I finished 3rd place at David Horn's World of Grip over there. That was the first time I ever used an adjustable grip thing, and that was the first time I ever did the sledgehammer with your arm wrapped in something. I think I did 22 pounds that day. I think that was the first time I ever, like in competition, like tried to hold something closed, with I think I did a 3 that day or something. Anyhow. So yeah, I would like to try the different apparatus. I've never like hit the wooden block thing or the wooden pet. What is it called?
It's like a crossbar. You're talking about like pulling up to a crossbar and the knock bar will hit it.
Right, because I've always lifted further than that to be a full pull.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, so if I only have to lift it that far, how much would I do? Could I do, So, I've always been curious about that, but my competition days are over. I compete with myself in the basement.
Mm-hmm.
What did I do the other day? I think I sawed a nail down to about 4 inches and I bent it. And I was like, okay, that's still there.
That's good. I mean, that's tough.
Just with leather wraps. I don't know if I got my leather wraps around here or not. Probably not. But yeah, it was just like a normal leather wrap thing. So I was like, okay, you still got because I always like small bends, just some strange reason.
Well, yeah, and that just makes it so much tougher. I mean, you just lose so much leverage when you bring the steel in, and and like I've dabbled in a little bit of bending. I'm usually a little bit better at reverse style bending than I am with like the double over. I don't know, just something about the position of it. I'm not very good at, but I've definitely noticed just any type of bending, the more the shorter that is, it just makes it a pain.
Well, let me tell everybody out there a secret. When you're a double underhanded bending, this is why I've always loved double underhanded bending. The weakest finger you have is this one. All right. That's hardest in piano, hardest in guitar playing, whatever. And your pinky finger. If you can get those stronger, and I've actually practiced. This is a good thing here. I've never shared this before. Oh, where'd I put my box set? It's over here. Hold on a second.
Oh no, you're good. Yep.
This is my show box right here.
All right.
And what I used to do, and I've told very few people this, and this is a good thing to work on. These are my just normal wraps. All right, these are regular nails. These are my warm-up nails, my play nails. But what you do is you'll take a nail. I'm probably not going to do it because I've been killing myself lately is you're getting wrapped up here. You still chalkaholic. All right. All right, you got it here. And this is the underhanded bend, and you want to get these two fingers stronger. All right. What I did was I start with 4 fingers. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'll bend it. Okay. And I would do probably about 20 or 30 of these to get warmed up to make sure my hands are really, really like warmed up, all the cracking gone and everything. And then you go into training your digits individually. All right. And I'm not going to do it all the way because I'm not in that mood right now.
That's all
All
right.
right. You take it. All right. All right. You do 3 fingers. Okay.
Yeah.
And you go all the way down. And I have gotten to where I did it with pinkies.
Yeah.
Bending the 60, just grabbing it right here and just 2 fingers. But if you get these 2 fingers right here, and that's all you're doing with bending the nail, just that one little crease. I mean, it's hard for fat fingers to get in the way, but that right there alone will always carry over. You see it?
Yeah.
You got it here. It's able to hold that, and you'll get stronger in your grippers.
Yeah, because I mean you're really working that same kind of point of leverage and everything. So
Yep.
yeah. And I think that's an important thing with training grip too, is there's so many things that have carryover, but it's being able to identify it and then making sure that you're, kind of applying that. So
exactly.
And that's what you'll see with the higher level
without
guys.
hurting yourself.
Yeah.
I have cranked these 2 fingers right here so bad it took me a half a month to get over it. Being overzealous with just bending simple little nails.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, another thing I guess to bring up would be that you've also kind of gone by the name the World's Strongest Redneck, right? Right. So, when did you kind of start that, or was that like when did that kind of become a thing? Or
I read a little book. All right. I read a little book. It was called The Prayer Jabez. Lord, bless me indeed, increase my territory, have your hand upon me, keep me from evil, and let me cause no pain. It was a little bitty, thin book. So I started praying that every day. I went to sleep. I think it was during the summertime or something. And I was woken up, and it was like a dream. It was like, come up with a strongman comedy act. It was like this intuition gut thing. And I was like, come up with a strongman comedy act. That's funny. Strongman doing comedy while he was, okay.
mm-hmm.
Didn't think nothing of it, didn't pursue it. 2 weeks later, same thing. Rock gut. Come up with a strongman comedy act. I says, all right, you got my attention now.
Yeah.
You got my attention now. All right, that's a vivid dream. Okay. So I wrote David Horn. And I says, Dave, since he's a brilliant historian and strongman, and I said, Dave, has anybody ever come up with a strongman comedy act? And he says, and his, you could hear him say it or something. Some bloke tried it for 6 years and he failed. To lack of better terms, that's what I, got from it. And I went, and he was like, I think he said something like "go for it" or something at the end of the transaction thing. And I says, okay, let's do this. Let's come up with a strongman comedy act. So I fell on my face probably 30 times before I get all my, comedy and everything. And this is when the YouTube channel, just started like doing stuff. And then all of a sudden, my wife, she texted or emailed Jay Leno.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, yeah, my husband's kind of weird. He rips cards in his teeth. Don't try this at home. So they got in touch with me. They says, can you rip 10 decks of cards in 30 seconds? I says, I don't know. I've never tried. So, and this is the little truth. I ripped a few cards and I was like, oh, this is going to be harder than I thought. So I ate, this is a true story, ate every deck of cards from the Dollar General in 3 counties. It was like $600 worth of investment, right? So then I was on Jay Leno. So I got a contact. After that, I got in contact. I think I'm getting everything in chronological order here. Country Fried Home Videos on CMT.
Mm-hmm.
And I put my camera on my lifting barrel, leaned it on my lifting rock, and I said, hi, I'm Steve McGranahan. I can bend a nail and I can rip a deck of cards in my teeth. But if you're from West Virginia, you can't rip cards in your teeth because you got to have teeth. Just like that. That's simple, right?
Yeah.
You know how people in Pennsylvania rag on people in West Virginia. Just like that, I turned the camera off. I shipped it out to Country Fried Home Videos. Only wanted like $200, all right, to
Mm-hmm.
be on the show one time. They said, can you do more feats of strength? They wrote me back in an email. They said, we love this video. Can you do more? I said, yeah, I can do feats of strength all day long. I mean, I can rip with my hands. I can,
Mm-hmm.
bend nails in my teeth and, rip phone books wrapped in duct tape. They says, okay. So I sent them like 4 or 5 more videos and they said, would you like to be a regular on the show? I said, yeah, why not? So I got to thinking, I said, Gina, we might want to protect this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I spent a few $1,000s and luckily we got a lawyer in the family who's really great. Tim, her cousin-in-law or cousin, works out in California with a bunch of Hollywood people. He said, yeah, I'll give you the friends and family discount. So I said, okay, I want to copyright World's Strongest Redneck. So I'm in there, I'm trying to get everything World's Strongest Redneck, trying to pile it up and copyright it and all that. And I think I did almost 40 shows with them, I think it was,
Mm-hmm.
as the World's Strongest Redneck, and just, come on, hi, I'm Steve McGranahan, World's Strongest Redneck, and this is how you put a deck of cards up your nose and you rip them, just like that. So it got pretty famous. I was like, every night I'd go out to dinner. We actually had the #1 show on cable.
Oh yeah.
I can actually say that. And that's why when cable started getting to be cable, you know what I mean? It was just, cable. And it was on CMT's Country Fried Home Videos. I think it was every Friday night at 9 o'clock with Bill Engvall. And I would be like the next to the last segment. And
Mm-hmm.
Steve Grant, World's Strongest Redneck by. And they paid me handsomely. I mean, I could have bought a house, with the money they gave me. So it was a good thing. So, and then it snowballed into, I think I was on a few TV shows after that, and I was selling videos like crazy. Oh, I was making some good money on videos, and then before all that, the YouTube channel blew up. My wife and I were driving through Scranton, Pennsylvania, right before the tunnel. And all of a sudden, my phone just started blowing up. It was like ding, 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 ding. I mean, just blowing up. And I'm sitting there driving down the road going, what is going on? She's picking it up and she's going, you're getting emails from YouTube. You're picking up subscribers. And I went, how many emails you got? And she goes, I don't know. It's happening too fast. So I think Ray Williams, who was like the number one guy on YouTube, said, I want to introduce y'all to my favorite redneck. It's Steve McGranahan. And he was getting a weird hit. I mean, he would get like 2 million hits on a video in probably 2 or 3 weeks, which was unheard of back in 2007.
Yeah.
Unheard of,
Yeah.
2008, 2009. I mean, that was just, he was the man. Ray Williams was the man. And I got to research and I was like, the number one guy on YouTube just mentioned me and showed me on his thing. And that's where I got all the subscriptions. And then I was making, just off of YouTube, I think I was making close to $700 a week.
Yeah.
Just off of YouTube hits.
And especially back then, like you said, it's different than
That's
YouTube
unheard
nowadays.
of.
Yeah.
That's unheard of. So that went on for a long time, and then people started booking me for shows and stuff. So it just, and I'm glad I had my butt covered with the World's Strongest Redneck, and it just, I don't know chronologically how it all happened because it's a blur.
Yeah.
But it did. And then I did what I do on Discovery Channel, Fat and Furious. I think I did 22 shows of that. So that was a pretty good gig. It was nice ripping apart $100,000 cars and putting them back together with a little movie magic, of course. But
yeah,
driving a car 100 miles an hour down the highway over in Boardman, Ohio was pretty fun. Not knowing it would stay together. It would shimmy and any brakes on it. Oh, it's crazy. That was fun. That was good old days.
Yeah. So now, with that being said, are you still the world's strongest redneck, or do you think there's somebody else out there that could take that title?
You can't take it because I own the rights.
Yeah,
So.
there you go. So
Yeah, go ahead.
that's
I'll
it.
sue you. I'll make some side hustle sue money on you. No, so I don't know. There's been a lot of like cocky rednecks come up, and here's a funny story. Little kid comes up. I mean, country boy comes up right at the beginning of a show I was doing in Durham, North Carolina. I was doing a show in Durham, and he comes up and he takes his hand just like this, and he goes to shake my hand, and he crunches my hand. You know, I mean, I'm a respectful gentleman, you know, but he hit me. And I was like, that's a good handshake you got there. He goes, yeah. Just like that. So I go, all right. So I do my whole show. I get jacked up doing my whole show, everything. And I said, let's teach a little boy a lesson. He wasn't a little boy. He's right good sized kid.
Yeah.
So he comes up and he goes, you know, I see him getting jacked up again, like, yeah, it was great to meet you and everything. And I met him right in the middle and I hit him with probably a 3.5 close. I felt his hand just like melt. Wham! I hit him so hard too. I just went wham, just like that. And he goes, and he froze for like 5 seconds. And I looked at him and I winked. And I said, don't be trying to crush people's hands. And he goes, I won't anymore. Just like that. So that was a fun lesson to be taught.
Yeah.
True story. Yeah. It was like he will never try to hurt nobody's hand again.
No, that's the thing, Steve. Is like, man, you have so many different stories and so much stuff that, I mean, we could probably talk forever, but like I said, I don't want to take up your whole night.
Good, man. I enjoy it. I've done interviews for newspapers all over the world, literally.
Yeah. I'll say one thing I was going to bring up that you mentioned in the notes that I don't think a lot of other people would know is that we've kind of hit heavy on the grip strength, the performing, just overall strength and all that stuff. But you played a lot of different sports growing up as well. And you mentioned that you had like done marathons and all types of running and run like a sub-6 mile and stuff like that. But that's something that people, you know, from the outside looking in might not be aware of.
Because I look like a fat slob right now. No, I'm mostly German and Irish and something else. I'm actually part gypsy. My real dad was a gypsy in West Virginia. True story. I just found that out probably about 10, 15 years ago. But I remember getting what was the book? It was Ripley's Believe It or Not.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I was a big like records fan person. Like I got one book when for Christmas one year, and it was the Bicentennial Guinness Book of World Records, and it had Paul Anderson deadlifting 800 pounds on the back of the book.
Yeah.
And I went, I want to be strong like him. But I saw the Ripley's Believe It or Not book, and I was reading through it, and it showed a guy with trophies behind him. And it says, this blah, blah, blah person I think it was from England, was excellent in 12 sports. And I went, excellent in 12 sports. What exactly does that mean? And me being dyslexic, my imagination just started running wild and everything. And I says, okay, so I'm going to play football. I started at 6 years old playing football, played all the way up 2 years in college. Got that settled. I did wrestling 6 years, and then I won second place in the men's freestyle open in North Carolina state games. I won gold medal in shot put, discus, and a couple other things in the state games. I threw javelin. And then all of a sudden, back in what was it, 1986, I said, I'm gonna run a marathon. And my aunt lived in Washington, D.C., and the Marine Corps Marathon is the easiest marathon to run because it has one hill, one going behind the Capitol building or the Congress building, and another one going up the Iwo Jima thing. Had literally 2 or 3 hills in the whole race. Everything else is just flat.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And I said, okay, I'm going to train for that. So I trained for that. I broke 4 hours my first marathon. And that's like a really big goal. So I said, okay, let's just start running and see what happens. So then I just started. It was so hot in North Carolina. I didn't have air conditioning in my house. I had the hottest room in the house. So I would have to train between right when I got off work at 11 o'clock, and I would train from about 11 to about 2 in the morning with like 80% humidity. The dew was hitting on the ground. It was raining. And this is where the anomaly started. I don't know if it's an anomaly or what you want to call it. You remember I had the sleeves ripped out of my shirts?
Mm-hmm.
People are going to love this. Well, when I was the world's strongest redneck, I had the sleeves ripped out of my shirt. How that started was when I was running, I would have to go to the bathroom. So I didn't have anything to do. So I'd reach over and rip my sleeve open, go to the bathroom, do what you got to do with the sleeve, and go on. So I would run home sometimes with one sleeve. It was like toilet paper hanging off of my shoulder. So that's how the arms off of the shirt happened.
Yeah.
That's literally a true story. So I trained that. One day I ran to my old football coach's football practice. I ran sprints with them. I was outrunning the fullbacks in the sprints and some of the receivers. And I'm like, and my coach looked at me from way back when. He goes, when did you get this fast? I was like, I don't know. So I would actually run fartleks That's when you run real fast and then you jog real slow, run real fast. I would do miles like that. Run a mile, jog a mile, run a mile, or like sprint a mile. So I got to where I was in the Cary Road race in like 1990 or something. And I led the whole race for like a mile. All these skinny guys. I mean, I got up there and I was probably 230, 240 pounds. I
Yeah.
mean, I was still strong too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is when I was power cleaning the 308 pounds. I mean, I was in phenomenal shape. Phenomenal. And so I would do these sprints late at night. I had a friend, my ex junior high coach wanted to run a marathon. So I said, okay, I'll be at the track every night at this time. We'll do it. So he ended up running like a half a marathon, but we would train together. And I also started getting good at the smaller distances because I was doing all these intervals and stuff. So I was like, I felt like Forrest Gump, literally, just running. I would sprint up the longest hills in town and all that. My best 5K, I think it was 19 minutes and 31 seconds, that's fast for a big old boy.
Oh yeah.
All right. My best 15K was a sub hour. That was my favorite race of all time. It was like the perfect condition. I don't even know what that comes out to a mile, but to run 15K in under an hour, you're rolling. You're rolling.
Yeah.
At that Cary Road race, all these skinny guys are like, where's this guy going? What's going on? And I ran that first mile, and I think I ended the race in like 22 something, but I ran the first mile at like sub 6. I was just crazy, man. You have these little moments of like fartdom or whatever. And I was like, that's the fastest road mile I ever ran in my life. And it was a decent, contour of the road. And then I ran a 4.940 in high school. So, and then I dunked a basketball when I was working in Florida. I would build hurricane houses down there. So I had game, I had, because I played basketball growing up 8-9 hours a day on a sandlot court with no shoes on. So, we had some tremendous basketball games back in the day.
I was gonna ask you, Steve. I was gonna mention the dunk and the basketball.
Yeah.
I was just curious. What's your height? Like I said, it's hard to tell from videos sometimes and stuff like that. We've never met in
Well,
person.
the tallest I was ever measured, I was in a pair of Air Jordans. I was 6'125".
Okay.
But with all the spine injuries that I had doing crazy stuff off the high dive and squatting and doing deadlifts wrong, I'm probably I'd say I'm 5'10", maybe 5'9.5" now. So
okay. And
I'm
about
60
how much
years old, so you lose
yeah.
an eighth of an inch every year after 40 something. So
Okay. Well, and about how much did you weigh when you dunked? I'm just trying to get a rough estimate, maybe about how tall and how
I
much you
think I
weighed when you were
was
dunking.
oh my goodness. You could see my six pack through a tank top, through a wife beater. I was so lean. I was probably about, I want to say about 225, 230.
Okay. So still pretty big, and for that height,
Yeah.
that's explosive.
Yeah. I was lifting cinder blocks all day long, 37-pound cinder blocks. I was picking up headers and putting them on the door joists and the concrete headers for the door joists and the windows. And I was wheelbarrowing full wheelbarrows through sand in Florida and on
Yeah.
boards. I mean, yeah. So it was in the Florida sun. So I was in shape.
Yeah, I just had to bring up that kind of past stuff. We we didn't start there. We kind of skipped
Yeah.
back to it. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of mention the overall kind of athletic achievements and kind of some of that background, because although you're most known, at least to a lot of the people that'll maybe watch this show, as a grip strength thing, you're known in that world and for the other feats and performances you've done, but you have a whole background that kind of built and led up to that as well. So I definitely wanted to kind of make it a point to kind of bring that in there too.
I appreciate it. I was able to carry all that knowledge
Mhm.
and getting in shape and the ability. I ended up coaching for 7 years at a middle school in Durham, North Carolina, Carrington Middle School, and I coached football, wrestling, and track. And I coached a little bit of soccer and a little baseball too. But I was able to take all that life experience and getting in shape and training my kids. All right. In the 7 years that I worked there, we lost that many games in football, wrestling, and track.
Yeah.
That many. So all that care, because we used to lift weights at 7 o'clock in the morning in junior, teaching my junior high kids, my
Yeah.
wrestling kids. We had all but one kid win a medal on my whole team. All but one kid won a medal in wrestling.
So you're kind of bringing up coaching there too. Um, is there any chance that you would look at coaching in the future at all, considering the knowledge you have now? Like I said, just kind of curious. I don't want to like throw you on the spot or anything, but
No, I mean, my wife and I work with special ed kids. I work with behavior kids,
mhm.
and she worked with the learning disabled kids. And we beat the life expectancy of teaching them. So we actually punched our card for humanity for that part of our lives.
Yeah,
But the kids these days and time, me being 60 years old and being a boomer or whatever you want to call me, I don't think that I would be able to withstand patient wise, the things that would come at me
yeah.
because I don't like homicidal thoughts. And school kids will give you that. I mean, they will test you. They will test you. I mean, just people online. I mean, wait till
Oh,
you post this and you get the little trolls going, "Oh, I don't think Steve McGranahan is legit. I don't know. Oh, maybe let me go look at his video. Oh, it's oh, that's done with AI. Oh, I don't think.
oh yeah, yeah. I've dealt with it. I have. I mean, I don't have like the following or like the performances that you do, but I have a ton of YouTube videos and some have done pretty well. And yeah, I've dealt with a decent amount of people that, oh, the inch dumbbell's fake, it's rubber, why is it bouncing off the ground? And it's like, man, like, yeah,
What
you can't do it.
posers or something? Yeah, that's another. I mean, I've gotten to the point where I don't like to talk about people because I really don't want to spend my 6 year old energy on it. But
Uh-huh.
there's a lot of guys
I hear you.
out there taking credit for coming up with the stuff that we came up with and challenging the world with it. That's why I'm kind of wish I was at certain places in time where they're doing these things and they go, I bet you nobody in the crowd can do this. And I'm going up. Got a
Yeah.
$100 bill? I'll take that $100 bill off of you. So,
Yeah.
but but it's all about likes and comments and subs and all that. And I've kind of lived through that. I mean, every year I get 1 million hits on a video that I did with the dead deer on the side of the road on Facebook, and I don't make a dime off of it. So
Yeah.
I think it's
Well,
up to like 11 million hits now or something.
well, I think a big thing is, and I'm not saying it doesn't happen sometimes, but with a lot of the lifting and some of that stuff in the early days, um, when you talked about kind of everybody kind of pushing each other and stuff like that, the goal wasn't necessarily for anybody to make that like I'll get subscribers off of it, or that wasn't the goal. Like it was just pure training. It was just in like a natural environment.
Right.
nowadays everything is almost so, I don't want to say scripted, but it's
It's
almost
scripted.
it's scripted and based around everything, or it's just edited, or there's something there's always something to it, because now it's all about monetizing it and making it appealing and almost look better than it is. And
Well,
we see a lot of
you,
that.
you have to remember that the original inch dumbbell had a hole through it.
Yeah, and it's been brought up before on the show a few times.
See, you have to remember. And if you take and you put your finger with that hole, it doesn't rotate, and you pull it out, and somebody tries to pick it up, and everybody says that that was for it to hold in the thing that it was carried around in.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer that Thomas Inch was the baddest dude in town, and he didn't need to cheat because he threw that thing over his head.
Okay. Yeah.
So that just totally nullifies that, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I've interviewed people, and it goes back and forth on that topic.
Yeah.
Some people say, I don't think Thomas Inch ever lifted the inch dumbbell himself, or there was a catch to it. Or then you have people that are like, he absolutely did that, and look at all these other lifts. And so it's always a little bit of a
Thomas
mixed
Inch
thing.
was a legitimate human being, but you always have to see the big picture. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't know if he did it in his older age. You don't know. I mean, you weren't there, so you don't know. But in the lifting world, but I have all respect for like one of the greatest things I'd admired about being in competition over in Europe or with David Horn is they are gentlemen over there. When they run something, it's legit. Every weight is weighed at the post office. Everything is written down. It's historically documented.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is done to the T, and that's what I totally. You can't. I did a great lift and everything. It was 220 some pounds. I picked up with one hand, and I picked it up wrong, and it started going back, and I leaned forward and I levered it straight.
Mm-hmm.
And David Horn said, I can't believe you levered that back straight. But then what did the dumb American do? He dropped the weight and it didn't count.
Oh, wow.
They're
Yeah.
gentlemen over there. They take everything back to the ground and place it the way it's supposed to be. That's what I loved about that's what I love about that culture. It's all a gentleman thing. You pick up a stone, you leave the stone where you picked it up. You respect where these things are, and you let someone else come by and you pick that stone up.
Yeah, you see
Whether
that.
it's
Yeah.
3 miles in the middle of a field. You respect that. I'm going to spray paint my name on this thing, red and that.
Yeah. And that's what I was going to get into after you kind of mentioned that, was just, you mentioned just the lifting and the documentation of everything, similar to like a lot of the stones or just natural stones that are out there. Um, you know, how to properly lift them. That's something that I've seen. There's some guys that run a podcast about stone lifting, and they do a really good job of putting kind of all that information out there, making sure that the famous or historic stones or new stones that are kind of, being, I guess, marked down or located, that they're taken care of, and people aren't just like dropping them and trying to, just break them or mess, whatever. Just, yeah,
Right.
just treating it with respect to the history of everything. So, yeah, you definitely see a lot of that. For that competition, did you fly over? You flew over to England or whatever and that was just a grip competition with
Yeah, I
David
flew
Horn?
over to Stafford, England.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that
They had me ranked number one in the United States. I was undefeated in the United States, and I flew over there. I looked for sponsors. I looked for Ironman to sponsor me this and that and everything, and I was like, nobody wanted me to sponsor, so I guess I saved up enough aluminum cans to fly over. And Dave and his family was just such wonderful hosts and that, and and I met all the, the top guys in there. I met the guy who came in second place. I'm sorry, I can't remember his name, but he was a stuntman for Hollywood. In one movie, he was the guy who was doing the flip over the rhinoceros, and I thought, wow, this is really cool. And then Dave would show all this historical stuff that he'd been accumulating, and it was a wonderful learning experience, and it was just great. His mom took us to the prison that she worked in. She's such a beautiful woman. God bless her, rest her soul, man. She's a beautiful, beautiful woman, beautiful spirit. She took us into the prison, and we had question and answers with the prisoners and that, and it was kind of weird because being in a foreign prison and that, but I mean it was a wonderful experience. Driving on the wrong side of the road, on the wrong side of the car. I was like,
yeah.
wow. I went to my first roundabout, it was great.
Is that the only time that you traveled international for like a strength competition, or have you done that in other places?
For a strength competition, yeah. I've done shows in Russia, Hungary, Mexico. Alaska. I think I've done some in Canada. I've done shows. I've been halfway around the world. Yeah, I was like a little bit south of the Siberian line up there over in Hvar's, Russia. Yeah, Hvar's, Russia. That was an experience. They had mosquitoes over there so big you could see the stripes on them.
Yeah.
No lie. Looked like they had feathers on them. Yeah.
Wow.
They were having sex with chickens over there. They were so big. They were big.
Is there any of those places that were like your favorite, or is there any like maybe that was more unique than the others, where like maybe you got a bigger reaction, or there was just something a little bit different about it?
In Russia, they walked up to me and they go, what you did was very good. You are very strong, but why would you bend a perfectly good frying pan? See, you were it was in a poor orphanage and they saw the frying pan as something useful. Why would you destroy it?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was just, and then the funniest thing, I think I was in Romania. Where was I at? I think I was in Romania. And it was so funny. There was this woman, dude, she was my size, right? And she was sitting behind this little guy. And they were sitting on wooden bleachers, okay? And I was in this place, they were poorer than dirt. But I guess my gypsy blood and me connected with their gypsy blood. And I was sitting there and I was working through a translator, and I said, well, this is and I rolled the frying pan up and I said, this is a kibasi cooker or something, whatever their sausage was over there. I think it was a kibasi. And all of a sudden, this large roar of a woman, she goes, whoa, and then reaches back and slaps the guy in front of her's back. And I mean, when I say slap, it looked like she was hitting a mule. I mean, just slapped him in the back. And he goes, lunges forward, and he turns back, and she goes, sausage cooker, kibasi cooker, ha, 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 ha. Just like that. And I was like, that's a moment to remember. It was so funny. And that, I mean, they were riding around in like horse-drawn carts and carriages, and
yeah,
oh, it was funny. That was a good moment. And then we Budapest, Hungary, beautiful place. Oh my goodness, Hungary. If you ever get a chance to go to Hungary, go. It's beautiful. Ukraine, I've been in Ukraine. Yeah, so
gosh,
well traveled.
That's it. Yes, there's so many different places and so many different things. Like I said, I feel bad. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but like just hearing these stories and stuff, you know what I mean? Is there any other kind of I guess any other path, like we've covered a lot of the earlier athletic kind of accolades and stuff you've done. We've covered kind of the mental side of things, the performing stuff. Is there another avenue that you think we could go down or kind of discuss, or do you feel pretty good with most
That's
everything?
uh, one thing I've learned about hand strength is, and probably some people have understood this, and I've proved it many a times, is the stronger your hands get, the more sensitive they get. It's some kind of phenomenal thing that I've run into. Okay. Um, when I go a long time without lifting or doing hands or grippers or something, your hands will vibrate. They'll numb. Have you ever had that?
I
They'll,
feel like at times maybe in like the
they'll,
fingers a little bit and
they'll like
certain
start,
stuff.
see?
Yeah.
Yeah. They'll start
Yeah.
tingling a little bit. Okay. I'm thinking that's like the nervous system not being activated to the highest level that you're used to doing.
Hmm.
Okay. And a lot of times, sometimes they'll itch too. That's, sometimes the nerves or something healing. But what I found out is you can literally micro feel things. And it's something, it's weird, and I've proven it. And a friend of mine, he was a blacksmith, and he goes, and I go, and he hands me a nail. And I went, and I grabbed the nail and I went, this is thicker than a normal nail, normal 60 penny
Hmm.
nail. He goes, no, that's a normal 60 penny nail. And I go, no, it's not. It's thicker. I can feel it. And he goes, there's no way you can tell me that nail is thicker than a normal 60 penny nail. I said, well, go get your little measuring device. And he had a measuring
Yeah.
device, whatever, what do you call it? Thing,
Micrometer or caliper. Yeah.
micrometer, right?
Yeah.
So I took a nail that I bent off his wall, and he measured it, and he went, yeah, that's exactly 0.25. And he measured that other nail, and it was like 0.28 or 29.
Yeah.
And he says, there's no way your fingers can know that. And I went, yes, there is, because I've done it more than once. And I says, think about this. I'm somebody who does magic. They know where every card in the book is at, right?
Hmm.
And they can tell the thickness of when they're doing it and everything. And he goes, you got a point. And people would always, sometimes my family would throw stuff at me, and they'd go, how much would this weigh? And I would nail it within like a few ounces or something.
Hmm.
It's just something that you're going to find out. But when your hands do start tingling, you need to work them out. You
Okay.
need to work them out, because
Yeah.
that's one thing that I've learned. Um uh Grippers. Do a lot of thin bar levering behind you when you
Yeah.
lever.
Gotcha.
Do a lot of thin bar, because that will help you with grippers and bending at the same time. I've taught that trick to a bunch of people. What I did, I got a window weight. Those lead weights that used to pull the window up and down in
Yeah.
old houses. I got
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
100-year-old house, so I know what I'm talking about. You can hear
Hmm.
them moving inside the walls. Take that and I put it on the end of a octagon hot rolled bar. That's probably about that long, and I duct taped on it, and that's what I would lever with off the
Yeah.
ground, and I could add weight to it, but it hurts so bad because it was a little more than a quarter inch. It was between a quarter inch and a 3/8. But that took my bending to astronomical levels, just astronomical levels.
Yeah.
So
No, like I said, those are all good tips. And
yeah,
kind of to mention, like you talked about kind of the hand or just kind of knowing certain things. I have a similar story. It's not quite as extreme as probably knowing like the fractional difference
micro
between
measures. Yeah,
between the nails. But especially when I really hit probably blobs real hard for the first couple of years.
Yeah.
And I was so used to what, what the blobs felt like. You know what I mean? Different
Yeah.
widths and the different shape and just the edges and
Oh
which one had
yeah.
more slope and all that stuff. So I was messing around with a buddy of mine one day, and I forget how I got started, but I was just explaining like why I was having such good success with blobs. I'm like, because I've had my hands on them so much. And just as an experiment, I said, hey, I had about 20 in the garage, like different increments and different
Yeah.
stuff, and a couple different, generations where like York had like the fat man, and then some had like the next gen that was a little skinnier on one side, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I basically told him, I said, hey, I'm not going to look at it. I just want you to roll one over here. I won't look
No,
at it. I said, I'm not going to touch the number, to cheat. I'm not going, oh,
yeah.
that's an 85. I said, I'm not going to touch anything. I said, I'm just going to feel the width of it
Yeah.
and kind of touch the slope. And I was like, oh, that's a half 90. And they're like, how'd you know that? And I'm like, I've just had my hands on it that much. Or,
See? I'm
so
telling you.
it's not quite probably as, dialed in.
No, it's the same. I'm telling you,
yeah, I get it.
It's the same
Yeah.
thing. And what I had to be careful with, okay, and it's real. It's rough, but I used to break keys off indoors.
Mm-hmm.
Just put the key in and turn it, and if it didn't turn, it turned. And I did it at my brother's house, and some just stupid little things like that. Or when you go to like touch somebody or grab somebody, that saying you're heavy-handed.
Yep.
My little brother is heavy-handed. I mean, the boy, he's a big old boy. All right, he's like 6'2", probably 315 pounds, and he took a number one horseshoe, and he doesn't do hand strength at all, and he takes it and he goes just like that.
Yeah.
And he bends it, and then he goes, ow, that hurt. And I went, Michael, you don't understand what you just did. You bent a freaking number one horseshoe, and you've never been a horseshoe. It doesn't have wraps on it, and you just went and bent it. So I mean, we got good genetics in our family, trust me. So you got to be real careful, especially if you're around kids. Or my wife's 110 pounds, 5'2". You got to be careful. You do have a superpower. People don't understand. You have a superpower, and you can use that superpower for good, or you can use it for evil. The one person I love watching him is I think he's called the Raspberry Ape. He just wrote a book out.
Yeah, Daniel Strauss. Yep.
That human being is a beast. He is a beast.
Yeah,
I don't care. If I was in a dark alley and he was behind me, I would feel the safest of any human being on earth. That's one bad dude. I pull up one arm and then got like weights on it. And then the stuff he does, what's his body weight? 145, 150, 160?
I say Daniel Strauss probably a little bit bigger than that. He's pretty thick. But maybe sub 200.
Okay. So
I would say
to me, he's little.
Yeah, yeah. He's pretty good sized guy. But see, I knew of him from kind of like the MMA and jiu-jitsu side of things.
Yeah,
exactly.
Because
he's a high level black belt. So I first found out about Dan Strauss through grappling. So I remember watching him grapple. And then I didn't get into grip stuff until much later because, like, I mean, I've fought MMA and did all the grappling stuff, and that's when I knew of Daniel Strauss. And then, I didn't realize that he was also into this stuff. And when I found out about this later and saw the way he was training, I was like, oh man, like that's cool. It's cool that he trains that way as well. So yeah, he's a monster.
He's done some sick stuff. And if his body weight's that heavy and he's doing that kind of stuff, I mean, rolling stuff and his like forearm looks like Popeye, and he's like, doing pull-ups on, oh, I don't, that dude, that's another guy. I was highly impressed. I was just so thankful that the grip world has ambassadors like him, like Horn and like Timmy and like, or Butler, and it's just, I'm so pleased that one of the old souls passing down stuff to younger guys.
Yeah, sorry, I was just trying to look up. I was just trying to look up Daniel Strauss's weight because I'm not sure, but I want to say he's a little bit.
I want to say about 175, 180, but I mean
That could be because
because
I'm
he's
seeing.
alone in a lot of his videos, and it's hard to tell.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too. It's hard to scale.
Yeah,
But yeah, and I don't want to waste too much time trying to find it. But yeah, I wish I had like
yeah, he's got my full respect.
quicker way to bring it up.
He's a bad dude.
But yeah, this said this was from a EBI card at 205 pounds. So he at least was under 205 for that particular event,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
believe. But yeah, so like I said, I don't want to waste too much time, and I don't know exactly what he weighs,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I wouldn't say
Oh, he's
he's
got all those swords and shields and stuff.
yeah
Yeah.
yeah
Oh,
he's got a lot of different training stuff and a lot of different like you
poise.
said, different wrist strength, different levering, different kind of cupping strength, different pull-ups and all kinds of stuff. So he's very, very good page to follow. Like I said, I wish I had a
Yeah,
better like accurate weight on him, so I'm not making up stuff
yeah,
over here. But
yeah. He's a great. I would highly recommend
yeah,
everybody out there following Raz. It's Raspberry Ape, right?
yeah,
Is it
yep. Daniel Strauss, and it goes
Dan?
by the
Oh
Raspberry
my
8.
word!
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's got a lot of good content, good training videos, and that's a guy that's
Down to
competed
earth.
in. Yeah, and it's a guy that's competed with, I mean, some of the highest level grapplers in jujitsu, and then he's pulling off amazing lifts, feats of strength, like you're mentioning. So I mean, it's
Yeah.
functional strength. He knows how to train,
Yeah.
and
Oh.
it trains in
Oh,
a
he
lot of
knows.
different ways that most people wouldn't even think about. So
Yeah.
yeah, no,
Have you done an interview with him yet?
no, I haven't, but I would like to. So
Yeah.
it's kind of on my list, and I want to say he did an interview with David Horn, and they both went back and forth for about 3 hours. So,
Oh yeah.
but
Well,
both
those
those
two
guys
legends.
are
I mean, those
yeah.
freaking legends, man.
So both those guys are definitely two people I would love to have on the show at some point. I mean, David Horn is
Oh, you got to get Horn, man.
yeah,
Oh,
David Horn's a big one, and then I'd love to have Daniel
Dave
Strauss
Horn's
too.
forgotten more grip stuff than I've learned.
Yeah.
That's Elizabeth, his wife. She didn't know how to rip a deck of cards, and I sat down in front of her and helped her. And to
Mhm.
watch a woman rip a deck of cards, and her stature is just she is a phenomenally strong woman.
I was
And
gonna
to
say this
watch
is
her
yeah.
rip that deck of cards, I was just like, yes, yes. That was a great moment in my life. I loved it. I
Yeah,
loved it.
that's the thing too. Aside from David Horn, his wife has pulled off a lot of crazy feats that I don't know if a lot of maybe some of the current women's lifters are aware of how strong some of the stuff she's done is, but
Yeah,
extremely impressive. So
yeah. I mean,
yeah, that'd be
I know a lot of strong dudes that ain't as strong as she is,
yeah, for
or
sure.
hand wise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of mentioning David Horn and kind of mentioning some of these people. Are there any other people that maybe you drew inspiration from, or that kind of I don't say you looked up to, but helped you out along the way, or certain moments where you kind of yeah, I don't know, just anybody that kind of stood out like that.
Ode, the guy you just who the
Yep,
inch lifter.
yep. Ode Haugen.
Oh my goodness, he's done some at his. How old is he?
I think he's about 75 right now, I believe.
And multiple world record lift on the inch dumbbell. That's dude.
Yeah,
That's yeah. I've
he's
watched him literally all my career. I've just hands down. He's probably got the best fat bar grip in the on the planet. To see him in his prime was
mhm,
it would probably be unbelievable. Um, there was some Olympic lifters that were around the neighborhood around here in Butler and at PA that had phenomenal grips. They were doing a bunch of they would deadlift without doing a hook grip,
mhm,
just a double over.
mhm.
And some of the stories and the gym that I went to, they were phenomenal. So a lot of you know guys like that I kind of looked up to the you know who's phenomenal, and this is crazy, and I've tested them. too is the Amish kids.
Oh yeah, yeah.
They're out. I've seen a 6-year-old kid behind two Clydesdales plowing a field. All right. Now I walked up to a van in right above Punxsutawney when I left uh Rick Walker. Rick Walker literally helped me get to where I was in the early stages with hand healing. His knowledge is unbelievable in athletics. Rick Walker helped me. That's where we had that competition up there, and I finished. It was the first competition in the United States, I think it was, in grip.
Was that the battle for grip supremacy? Is that the one, or
Yeah.
is that okay?
And
Yeah.
it was in Punxsutawney. I think it was in Punxsutawney, near Punxsutawney. Anyhow, yeah, and I beat a guy by 1/100th of a second in a deadlift or something with a pull. Yeah, it was pretty incredible. He ended up being a pretty good arm wrestler, the guy that I beat. But I was leaving Rick Walker's place, and there was a van full of Amish people. And I was filling up my car, and I walked over there, and I had a number two gripper in the thing, and this young kid, he had to have been 18-year-old, but he looked like I got 9-inch hands. Looked like he had a 10-inch hand, 10 to 11-inch hand. It was just phenomenal. And he reaches out of the van just like that. And he goes, "Let me see that," when his little Dutch thing. And he takes the number two gripper, and he literally comes within a micro, didn't set it or nothing,
Yeah.
just grabbed it out of my hand and went just like that. And I went, there's some freaks in this world that nobody knows about.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And we're starting to see some of them kind of, I guess, get introduced to grip, and you're like, man, where have they been the whole time? And they'll just,
Right.
it's like they just come into the sport
He
elite
was
almost.
probably he
Yeah.
was probably about 18 to 22 years old. He just reached out of the van, grabbed that thing, and almost closed the number two, dead cold. And I was like, that's a grip. That's a freaking. And every time that I meet an Amish person, I make sure that I shake hands with them and that. But I've become kind of an anomaly around here with the Amish people. And they gave me the biggest comment or the biggest compliment they've ever given me. They said it in Dutch to a friend of mine, and he busts out laughing. I said, "What's so funny?" He says, "They gave you a great compliment." And I said, "Well, what is it?" They said, "You're stronger than horse poop on the road." Evidently, horse poop on the road is hard to get off, or it just sticks there forever. And I was just like, okay. And I looked at them and said, "Thank you." And they were like, because I was bending nails for them and
Yeah.
stuff, and
Yeah.
and the horseshoes, and they couldn't believe that, a normal white guy was that strong. So it's pretty funny.
So now with just kind of like we said, with all the history in those earlier days, or just all the feats of strength you've been around, a lot of times back then there wasn't a ton of cameras rolling. Everybody didn't have phones out trying to become famous or whatever they're doing these days. Um, are there any feats of strength that you kind of witnessed that maybe went unfilmed that no one else would know about, but it sticks in your mind and that you could kind of mention, mention the person and maybe the feat they did?
Yeah. His name is James Smith. They call him Shrug.
Yeah.
He lives over near Punxsutawney. He lives, I think it's Indiana, Pennsylvania. This kid was the strongest kid I've ever met. Young kid. All right. I've seen him place a 400-pound stone. I've seen him bend a 5-inch red nail. And this is when people weren't bending 7 inches.
Yeah.
And he would melt it. He taught me how. It wasn't with leather either. He did it with a freaking dishcloth, a rag ripped up, wrapped in something. He taught me how to bend.
That's pretty serious.
He was levering 22-pound hammers when people weren't levering 8-pound hammers. All right.
Mm-hmm.
He did something I will probably never ever see in my life. He walks over. He's got a bench in his basement. All right. He puts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 45-pound plates on this pipe. Takes a clip and clips it. Walks over, puts a neck harness on, and starts repping 315 pounds with his neck.
Wow. Yeah.
I said, that's not human.
No.
Stone cold.
Yeah.
Stone freaking cold.
Yeah.
315 pounds plus apparatus plus neck harness and goes just like this. I says, my hair's standing up just thinking about it. I says, James, you got the strongest neck in the world, dude. I've never known anybody. He could pick a refrigerator up with his neck.
Yeah.
And I'm going, and he had this bar. It was called, he couldn't put no more weight on it. Okay. And it was, I don't know, it was probably close to 900 pounds or something. I don't know. And then he starts wrapping these super bands on it. They're this like super, just huge, the blue bands, I think they were.
Yeah.
Starts wrapping that around it and then strapping that to the floor. Walks over to it and just starts doing shrugs. The bar is just crying. The bar's just crying. I think we had to duct tape the weight on it. It was just so much freaking weight. And I go, that's why they call you Shrug. And I mean, it had to have been 12, 1,300 pounds to pull that. I can't imagine that kind of weight. I've pulled 1,000 pounds off the bar, off the set rack. And it was probably 3 inches. He was doing it like just pulling off a foot, just
Yeah.
and just putting it down and just.
Yeah, that was one of the names I was told to bring up to you and ask about him. So I'm glad you went into some detail about some of the stuff that he did.
I mean, and every time he got on the grip board, everybody's BS, 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 BS. And I'm like, I saw it, dude.
Yeah.
I saw it. I saw it with my own eyes. He kinked the crap out of a 4.5-inch red. Kinked it. And I mean, it was in this day and times, it would have been a legit double
40,
underhand.
yeah, like a 40 degree or yeah, whatever.
Yeah. And he just couldn't get the crush down. I mean, he crushed it a little bit, but his technique was unbelievable. And I was like, Shrug, what do you contribute for your strongest ability to bend a double underhanded? And he goes, the shrug, the deadlift and the shrug. Because if you think about what the movement you're doing, it will carry over to, you know what I mean? And I came home and I started doing shrugs. My double underhanded went through the roof.
Okay.
Yeah. But you got to have wrist. You got to have wrist and fingers to support the torque you're putting on it. I mean, because
if you're not moving the steel, then it's going to end up moving you. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Right.
Just curious, what's he up to these days? Does he still train or anything? Or do you
I
have
have no idea. I have
Okay.
no contact with him or nothing.
Okay.
I don't know.
I figured I'd ask because, like I said, hearing all the phenomenal stories, I just wondered, like, man, is he still lifting? What's he up to? But
he was selling insurance at one time, but he would be like a Brookfield. He would go out in the backyard and he'd beat on this. He would take a 30-pound hammer and he would beat on the tire or log. I think he had a log for hours. Just
yeah.
He was just a machine, man. He was just a machine. I've never seen a young, strong person like that. I mean, he was world class. He was. I never seen him bench press though, not much. But his squat was unbelievable. He taught me. He had this what they call a Mephistopheles bar, the one that the bends. What's it called?
I know some people call them like a buffalo bar, or they'll kind
Yeah,
of bend, but
yeah. I
yeah,
think
yeah, I'm not sure though. But yeah, they might have been
yeah,
called something different, or
yeah. He
yeah,
had one of those. All right, and he says, "Today we're going to do box squats." And I'm like, "Oh my goodness!" I said, "I mean, I'm not a great box squatter, but I'm okay." So we did 1 rep every minute. All right. And I was gassed. I think we did it for maybe 90 minutes or something. It was forever. Felt like it was forever. Right. And I go, dude, that was a crazy workout. He goes, nah. He said, I've done 500 for longer. And it was like almost below parallels, box
yeah,
squat. But I was like, that's unbelievable. That's just
yeah. No,
the
these are the kind
numbers.
of stories I always like hearing, because we often see people that kind of get the limelight, or they get the attention, or
Yeah.
they're known. But like you said, there's so many people that are just unknown out there, or people that,
Enigmas.
yeah,
Yeah.
that no one's going to know about, but everybody has that story about them. Like I mean, you're obviously a super strong guy, but you have that story about that other guy that's kind of like,
Yeah.
doing some different stuff, and it's always
All
fun to
right.
hear.
I had football cleats on. Okay. It was about 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning. We were at his grandmother's house and we were flipping tires. All right. I seen him with a pair of tennis shoes on and and a dewy grass flip a 1,200-pound tire.
I mean, that's a monstrous
Dewy.
tire. Yeah.
And I was about to drop what God gave my manhood on the ground doing like 1,000-pound tire with cleats on. I had cleats on. And he just got up under there. Everything was wet, soaking wet, dew on the ground. Just I really believe what's the right training. He could have been probably one of the top 20 people, world's strongest men
Yeah.
guys.
I mean, it seems like the base would have been there. I mean, if you just stick with it and kind of start specializing in different stuff, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I'd say it'd be possible. Um, but yeah, Steve, hey, I'll probably get ready to kind of give you I guess, like the wrap up, or like the last, any last words, if you want to kind of give any advice, or just any kind of message to any of the listeners. Just, yeah, kind of give you the last word, and then I can kind of let you go, man. But yeah, I
Yeah.
really appreciate you taking the time to give us all the stories and stuff like that. And who knows, man, maybe I'll bring you back on for some other topic or some other thing
All
in the future,
right.
because
Well, I'm honored, man. I appreciate you doing this for, the grip world and that. And I just, for, all those people that are coming behind us and that, I really, I want to thank you in advance for teaching them, from us old heads, the little stuff. I got a bunch of little toys. Tommy Heslop actually came up with one. It's, 4 springs and 2 iron plates, and you squeeze them down on each other.
Mhm.
Tommy Heslop came up with that. Tommy Heslop, he was a thinker. Tommy had to for as small as Tommy was, he probably had the strongest right hand of any small guy I've ever met. I mean, and he's just such a nice guy. He loves to just. I mean, he shared with me so much. He drove all the way from Virginia Beach one day for me, or to hang out in the backyard and that. But he taught me so much about grip and stuff. um yeah, just take care of your hands. Don't be in a hurry, people, to get strong. Don't it This stuff here, it happens over time. Be patient. A big secret is work on your thumb strength, because your thumb has to make up the strength for four hands, or I mean, four fingers. So
Yeah.
just, really strong. People always thought that I had like a chicken leg, or they called me what, drumstick Steve or something, because my thumbs were always, so strong. Always stretch. If you're sitting watching TV, just stretch. I'm having some trouble with this finger right now, and just stay stretched. Uh, do contrasting baths, ice cold, super hot, super hot. It rushes the blood in, rushes the blood out. Your fingernails will grow faster. I've seen it done. Um, the the best healing thing I've seen out there is you just take a gob of Neosporin, put it in there, put a Band-Aid on it for 3 or 4 days. And I'm blessed to be a fast healer. If you do hurt yourself during a workout, just pack it full of chalk, and just keep packing full of chalk, because that'll dry up the thing in there. Keep
Yeah.
your hands as soft as possible. I know it sounds weird, but peel all your calluses off. That way you won't have a callus blowing out on you. David Horn, this was the most crucial thing he ever taught me. And you keep utter soft cream or Aveeno, and just every night, just soft hands, soft hands. You can do a salt or a sugar rub to get the calluses off. I would highly recommend that. Uh, just and be kind to people. Just be kind, and don't be arrogant with our sport. Don't be a show off. Um, always, if you got a bunch of kids around you or something, always carry a deck of cards in your hand and say, hey, you want to see a magic trick or something, and they love cards and everything. I did this at Myrtle Beach literally 10 days ago. There was two kids traveling in. A friend of mine was across from the cottage that my brother's house is at. And I said, hey, y'all want to see something? He said, come here. And they were like, oh, I knew you were a magician or something. And I was like, yeah, it's something like that. I said, here, cut the deck. And they were like, oh, we're going to see a magic trick. And all of a sudden I take it and I rip it in half, and then rip that in half. And they were like, it's incredible, So,
Yeah.
you can have fun with it and that. So just be kind to people, man. Just be kind.
Yeah. No,
Don't,
Steve, I think
and
that's yeah. No, keep going. Yeah, go. Yeah, go ahead.
just, I mean, don't be cocky. Don't Stay humble.
Yeah.
Stay humble, and the more you teach people, the more that's going to come back to you. I promise you. And just it's not that bad. And keep sharing on this show, man. Just keep doing what you're doing, man. I'm supporting you 100%. I'm checking you out, and you'll meet up with some good friends in life, man. Like I did with Dave Morton and everybody down in North Carolina, and just have fun. Go out and dinner, and have fun, and lift all day, and then go eat all night. Have fun.
I think that's some of the best advice we've probably heard on the show so far, right? So Steve, I'll get ready to wrap up, but man, I can't thank you enough.
I got something.
Yep, no, keep going. Yeah.
Go and watch every video that Jed Johnson, the Diesel Boy, what is it?
Diesel Crew, yeah.
No, what's he called?
Or
Maypalm. What's
Napalm.
he called?
Okay, yeah, yeah,
Maypalm. Watch every video and learn everything from that human being that you can, because that boy knows some stuff. That
yeah.
he's one of the godfathers. He's one of the ones that got he's up there with all the accolades that I got to give out to whomever, because the boy has done his homework, and he is where's he at? Wanda, Pennsylvania, all the way
It's
to
Wyalusing, yeah, or like
yeah,
it's by
all the way
Tawanda,
to
but yeah,
yeah,
Wyalusing,
to
I think is where he's
Wanda.
at.
Yeah,
Yeah,
where they had the little World Series at up there with the baseball. But watch every one of his videos, and buy his books, buy the Raspberry Apes book, because these guys, they know what they're doing. They know how to teach. They've given clinics to professional teams and people. I would highly recommend anything that they put out there. And anything that David Horn's forgotten, you need to learn because the man is brilliant. Brilliant.
Yeah, well, hey, Steve, thanks again. And like I
Thank
said,
you,
I think people are really going to like this one, man. So yeah, thanks. And like I said, we'll just stay in touch. And yeah, wish you the best on your performances and everything else, and any future goals you have with the grip strength and stuff like that, like messing around with the inch dumbbell and stuff. So
Yeah.
we'll be looking forward to some of the training if you ever post
Yeah.
anything, or whenever you get that done. So
Sounds
yeah,
good, brother.
yep. All right, man. I'll let you go.
Thanks, man. God bless.
Yep.
Jim McGranahan, World's Strongest Redneck. Ah.